Bree had been exceedingly hospitable, and its people curious, yet generous. Many hotspots of trouble had been revealed to me, and my list of tasks was ever growing. Excited to return to the wilderness and new frontiers, I determined to solve Sig Mandrake's standing soup order before getting stuck into the wider lands. Halecatch Lake was pleasant enough. Under the starlit sky, the mere encompassed a fair area, and in the distance, ancient ruined walls of the old North Kingdom still remained, stubbornly defying the elements. As Mandrake had mentioned, I was not the only person sent to search for these tiny turtles. A few halflings were already busying themselves with their capture. They were clearly being paid hourly by the obvious signs of their complacency. Before any of them had collected a single turtle, I had claimed the 6 requested and was returning to Mandrake. As I skirted around the southern wall of Bree, the true scale of the protective hedge was unveiled. It truly ran the entire perimeter, and here was even bordered by a wooden wall and dry moat. I found it difficult to imagine the size of a force required to breach this defense, and shivered at the thought of castles and walled citadels being successfully besieged in legend. I wasn't so confident in the stakes though, they seemed fairly pathetic.
Greetings. Would you do something for me?
After claiming the turtles I had brought him would do, to nobody's surprise, Mandrake then asked another favor of me. A hobbit named Benegar Longbottom was also a turtle collector, and had left a good amount of them in his uncle, Grobo Dogwart's shed. New horizons indeed. I was already returning to Staddle. No matter, the crest of the hill was but a little further up. Through all my travails so far, I realized I had never actually entered a hobbit's house. For a man of my stature, it was a little suffocating, and the well-being of my head felt more at risk than it had in any fight so far.
Goodness!
My arrival was timely. Dogwart was afraid of the cold-blooded critters. They had apparently broken free of their bag, and he was overjoyed that I was here to remove them from his shed. The shed was larger than his house, and its contents, barring the turtles, made me want to check there wasn't pampas grass growing outside. A sly dog indeed.
Dear me, what do you want? Gracious me, I need your help.
I let Dogwart know his shed was once again undisturbed, but at our parting he shared that he had not seen his nephew Longbottom since he left the turtles. I would inquire further with Mandrake.
What do you need?
Mandrake was almost satisfied with the quantity of turtles, and told me Longbottom had left for one of the Everclear lakes, supposedly having discovered a prosperous site for the capture of the aforementioned creatures. I made note of its location. Luckily, it was nearer to my other objectives. With the wind whistling through my hair and my legs firmly astride my reliable bill, I felt surer of the path I had chosen. New lands lay before me, new friends, and contrastingly, new challenging foes. Pursuing the Greenway Road, this region's history was evident. Even after numerous centuries, the road still stood, and its undefeatable cobbles still defied the ravages of time. The only proof of its age and dwindling use being the moss that encroached on its borders. It was along here, outside a small building, that I found Chief Watcher Grumbriar, Barnum and Butterbear's contact, dealing with the threat of brigands.
What can I do for you?
He was short of officers, so welcomed me without reservation.
Would you do something for me?
He did not have enough men to patrol the countryside, so had moved here himself to keep an eye on raids he had heard reports of. The story he told was uncannily close to that experienced in Archet. Local outlaws recently becoming more numerous and bold, normally fleeing armed men but now more prone to attack. He wanted me to see what I could learn. The farm across the road had been overrun by them, so that was my first port of call. I had a creeping suspicion the name of Sharkey would surface once again.
Hear me out, traveler.
But first I spoke to Lofar Ironband, a nearby dwarf. He was a weaponsmith, and his latest blade had been stolen while it was cooling. His suspicions lay with the smiths working at Thornley's, and believed their cause to be jealousy of his superior dwarfcraft. He wished for me to investigate. Perhaps a man would be more likely to solicit a response. At the farm, the local outlaws proved to be no great threat. After slaying the first, I already found some clue for Grimbriar, a strange medallion. Thornley's worksite introduced me to Kenton Thistleway.
How can I be of service?
His initial deception was broken immediately by my piercing stare, and he admitted to taking the blade, but not without cause.
Might I take a moment of your time?
A brigand named Nate had threatened his family unless he made a sword for Nate's captain Blake. Having been given Ironband's newly crafted and stolen blade, Nate had left to test it nearby. Thistleway now wanted to set things right, and begged me to convince Nate to return the sword. As I was near the Everclear Lakes, I made a quick search for Benegar Longbottom, the tiny turtle aficionado.
What do you need?
His lack of turtles had still led to a profitable result.
Can I take a moment of your time?
Longbottom had overheard a most sinister conversation. Two rugged men speaking of a group that had infiltrated Bree and were waiting to unleash a surprise attack on the town. Fortuitously, Longbottom had also caught the location of their base of operations and the password they used. Grave tidings were these to hear amid the calm and tranquil waters of the lake. The brigand who had made off with Lothar Ironband's sword was already dead. Unfortunately, the blade had been snapped, and all I could find was the hilt. Returning to Thistleway revealed the ghoul that a man's desperation would uncover.
What do you need?
Feared that this Blake would come looking for his sword, he asked me to explain the situation to Ironband and ask him to make a second.
It is an insult.
To my surprise, Ironband took little to no convincing.
Is a moment of your time too much to ask?
He was already behind on work orders, but due to the loss of his father to brigands, he held a soft spot for Thistleway's affairs and agreed to make the sword if Thistleway helped him with some simple smith's work.
What can I do for you?
Bringing the medallion back to Grimbriar instigated a reaction of surprise.
Would you do something for me?
The medallion suggested at a small level of wealth, and the name Sharkey was attached to it. Both pointed to an unbeknownst degree of organization, much like what had happened within the Blackwood Brigands. In an effort to hunt down more information, Grimbriar would create a meeting between myself and a spy he knew among the outlaws.
What do you need?
Thistleway was more than happy to aid the dwarf, but did not have the items needed for the repairs. These entailed iron straps for the helm, flawless hides for the bellows, and gems for the axe haft.
What is this world coming to?
Foreman Rosethorn had a spare iron pot for the straps, and a good amount of attitude concerning Thistleway's neediness, which I found hard to disagree with. Following Thistleway's directions to a small dell, I found a surplus of boars for the hides, and among the standing stones, some trinkets.
Greetings.
My return was ill-timed.
Might I take a moment of your time?
While I had been gone, Blake had come to collect his blade and had suspected Thistleway of involvement in Nate's death. Preposterous! I wasn't sure Thistleway was actually capable of moving. Nevertheless, he had taken Thistleway's daughter Maribel, promising to kill her if he did not receive his sword. To rescue her, I would have to assault Blake's camp. Before doing so, I met with Grimbriar's informer,
You startled me.
and immediately came under attack. After dispatching of the intruders, the spy handed me some notes and ran away, acquitting himself with this business for good. Reading the notes exposed that the local brigands had joined forces with some men from the south, now equaling the numbers of a small army. With new members not being local, thus not having relatives in the region, they would be more inclined to heedless violence. The southern men were loyal to this Sharkey, and under their brutal yet efficient fist, they had transformed the outlaws into a much greater threat, with much higher aims. These southern men were supposedly well armed and skilled fighters. They withheld their secrets from the local outlaws, revered their leader Sharkey, and had possibly come from as far as Dunland. According to this, they sometimes spoke of a place called Isengard, and were rivals with a band called the Iron Crown. I informed Lothar Ironband of Maribel's capture. The sword still being unfinished, left an assault and face-off with Blake, truly the only remaining option. But as this site seemed so central to a lot of local consternation, I first wanted to see if any others needed matters to be concluded there.
How can I be of service?
Grimbriar read the notes and was gravely worried at its tidings.
Can I speak with you a moment?
He was unwilling to call upon the aid of the Rangers, believing the men of Bree capable enough to deal with their own troubles. Echoes of Hemlock Grouse and Constable Bolger in Staddle, who wished to resolve their matters by themselves, reverberated in my head. While again I applauded their steadfastness and will for self-sufficiency, I couldn't help but worry that this resistance to unity between the different peoples of Middle-earth would eventually spell its doom. Either way, Grimbriar now knew the location of the brigands' captain, who had led the raid on Dogwood's farm, so I left to strike a heavy blow to the enemy. He proved to be akin to the other lesser leaders of the outlaws, and no greater threat. A note on his person illuminated the situation. Under Sharkey's orders, this cabal were extorting local traders and demanding food off the land's farmers, all to claim ownership of the region's roads and fields, claiming that Andrath was already under their control. They were also on the lookout for a hobbit with the name Baggins. I hoped this was one of the four now under Strider's protection.
What do you need?
Grimbriar gleaned as much as I had from the note.
Would you do something for me?
He believed the captain in Brigand's Watch would have orders directly from Sharkey, and if I could retrieve them, they would be a great boon to us.
Would you do something for me?
Before my departure, I spoke with Watcher Rosecane. Having overheard my intentions, he stressed the importance of restoring the stolen goods, which were currently in Brigand's Watch, back to the surrounding farms. While Bree was not currently suffering terribly at this shortage, the stores would become vital if assaults were to continue, and tensions become more fractious. As I had anticipated, Brigand's Watch held more than one man's absolution. Hilton Harper's badge stolen by Aldous Oatbearer, Kenton Thistleway's daughter Maribel, Sharkey's orders for Chief Watcher Grimbriar, and the stolen goods were all waiting to be reclaimed. I was so glad I had waited and not completed each task one by one, continually fighting the same outlaws every single time. Brigand's Watch was unlike the other encampments I had encountered. This was not built amongst ancient ruins. They had put up a spiked wooden palisade around a vantage point where they could view the surrounding area. It seemed they were here to stay, unless I had something to say about it. Humphrey and I fought our way through their ranks until we breached the captain's tent. Here we faced off with the watch captain, and hopefully the possessor of Sharkey's direct orders. Evil has no boundaries. The brigands' lack of numbers was to be remedied through a union with orcs. According to the letter, Sharkey knew how to deal with orcs, and while those from the north were not on the best terms with him, they had been cut off while travelling as far south as the Greenway. This meant they were short on supplies and warriors, leaving them more open to accepting an alliance. The brigands were being told to treat any orc scouts well and not interfere with them. Creatures of nightmare and boundless evil, an ancient enemy of all with good in their heart, a cause for endless pain, hardship and suffering. These were the creatures the brigands were content to work with. I had never imagined it possible. The world was changed. I felt it there, at that very moment. I contorted the horror I felt into anger, a more actionable emotion, and searched for Maribel.
What do you need?
She was being held prisoner. Thankfully, her quick thinking and faster fingers had managed to pilfer a key to her cell, allowing her to easily free herself, now that I was here to protect her. Our escape was briefly delayed by the notice of Blake, the cowardly outlaw who had caused this whole mess between Lothar Ironband and Kenton Thistleway. I removed the need for him to acquire a well-made sword by putting him to mine. After escorting Maribel to the exit, she proved independent enough to make her own way back to her father, leaving me time to root out the thieving Aldis Oatbearer. After he had been vanquished, all that was left to do was reclaim the stolen goods. On my return, I first returned the stolen badge to the despondent Hilton Harper.
I'm sorry. Did he need something?
Encouragingly, my actions had returned hope to his heart, and he immediately took up his sword, did a little spin, and sprinted forth to fight some brigands. I was excited to find out what Hazel Kenton would make of this, and learn how it could affect my leadership. Next, I revisited Thistleway to make sure his daughter had made it home safe.
Greetings.
She had. While I had been gone, he had also completed the work set by Ironband to such a high standard that he had claimed it was almost dwarf work, and had promised to send more in the future. It had all turned out well. Thistleway's family was safe once more, and now a brighter future lay ahead of the craftsman. I did not wish to delve too deeply in the moral of this story. Thieving could be good.
How can I be of service?
Watcher Rosecane was grateful for the return of Bree's supplies, and the town's extra layer of food security made me feel more at ease.
What do you need?
Grimbriar learned that Sharkey was sending a legion of half-orcs to Andrath,
Can I speak with you a moment?
Bree-land's gateway to the south. Access to the South Downs, Dunland, Isengard, and the Gap of Rohan would all be closed if Andrath fell to their control. To make matters worse, Grimbriar had sent men to watch the ruins there, and now feared for their fate. Having proved myself, he trusted me to find his scouts and do what I could to avoid this catastrophe. This was clearly an immediate threat. Adso Haybank and Celandine Brandybuck would have to wait, as would the secret infiltrators in Bree. The passage must remain free, and Grimbriar's men would be in dire need of aid and news. I could not allow trade to be staunched. Bree had been built at an ancient meeting of ways and prospered because of it. With one of the ways closed off, who knew what instability and insecurity would be brought down on its people's innocent heads? So without further delay, I mounted Bill and set off for Andrath.